Hello and welcome to Hank Games Without Hank. It's the semi-finals of the FA Cup. I was wrong. We don't get to play in Wembley. We have to play at Stoke City Stadium against Stoke City to get to the finals, where we will face either Chelsea or another team, but let's face it, probably Chelsea. So here we are in the semi-finals of the FA Cup. It can go one of three ways, ladies and gentlemen. We can win, in which case we get to go to Wembley and play in the finals, and also we get $1 million, which would be very helpful. We can tie, in which case they have to come play us at the county ground, Stoke City, and the winner of that game will move on to the finals. Or we can lose, in which case we don't get to be in the FA Cup anymore. And the FA Cup, which we currently hold, albeit not in world-class skill level, will go to some other team, some lesser team. They're fake shaking hands, because that's how they do it in FIFA 11. They didn't innovate the hand-shaking technology until FIFA 12. We've got Scott McBeanie as our referee today, and we've got Real John Green, other John Green. Real John Green is my Twitter name. Follow me on Twitter. Real John Green and Bald John Green up front, as well as French the Lana, because we play a 4-3-3. Leroy Williamson is anchoring the middle, as he always does. He's 64 in terms of talent, but 100 in our hearts. Ricardo the Bunsen Berna is our goalkeeper, and our defense is anchored, as usual, by one-size-fits-all and Ginger Rampage. All right, here we go. Today I'm going to talk to you about political discourse and how weird it is, in my opinion, specifically by talking about the so-called healthcare debate, which I don't really think is a debate about healthcare. I really think it's a debate about winning. So I want to do that by talking about mandates. Mandates, not the kind that Bald John Green and other John Green go on, but the kind that wherein you are required to get health insurance, even if you decide that you don't want it. So here is a story that I will tell you about the history of mandates. In the 1990s, when I was in college and shortly thereafter, Fitzhall, come forward a little bit, baby. Fitzhall, oh, you backed up. I wanted you to come. Ginger Rampage over the bar. If Fitzhall had been in that position, he scores 10 times out of 10. That's disappointing. So in the 1990s, when I was in college, was the first time that we had a serious universal health care debate in a long time. Hillary Clinton proposed that we have a universal health care system that was basically going to be very, very similar to what you see in most of Europe, not all of Europe, but most of Europe, where coverage is done through a large sort of public insurance pool. And that's the way most of the developed world does it. I should add that every country in the developed world, except for the United States, has universal health care, and that they all spend much less money in terms of per capita GDP. They spend much less on health care than the United States does, and at least many countries get better health care outcomes, or at least equivalent health care outcomes to what you see in the U.S. So, you know, in the Netherlands, in Germany, in France, and the UK, the healthcare outcomes are at least equivalent, and in some cases better, to U.S. healthcare outcomes, but for literally a small fraction of the cost. So we've always known that because the problem is in the United States right now that we already have universal healthcare. It's just that we have a very disorganized system of universal health care, because if you don't have insurance and you go to the hospital or you get cancer or something, you do get treated for your illness. It's just that you have to declare bankruptcy if you can't pay for that treatment, and then the cost of that treatment is shared among the state and insurers and the people who have insurance. Basically, the cost gets passed on to us. It's done so in a very inefficient, time-consuming, costly way, which is a lot of the reason why our healthcare is 16% of our GDP, and France's healthcare is 9% of its GDP. Ricardo Bunsen Berna calmly taking it out from the back. Beautiful stuff there, baby. All right. I'm trying to do long balls more, because I'm told they work, but they never work for me. So that's the background. In the 90s, Hillary Clinton, and to a lesser extent her husband, the president, proposed universal healthcare solutions that would look a lot more like those big government. Oh, how could we not finish there? Those big government solutions that you see in the UK. Republicans responded to this by arguing that there should be market solutions to this problem, and that free markets are usually more efficient when it comes to finding good solutions for big for big issues like healthcare, for commodities like healthcare. And that's true. I agree with that. And so they proposed something called the individual mandate, in which people would be they would be able to choose what kind of insurance they wanted, but they would have to choose some kind, because no public insurance option fits all. One size fits all. Big, tall, short, small. One size fits all with a huge tackle. Huge tackle. Oh, I tried to do a special move and get past him, but it didn't work. So instead, I had a great tackle. That also didn't work. So that was the Republican kind of counter proposal for how we were going to solve the healthcare crisis, which was not as serious then as it is now, because it was still a smaller percentage of our GDP than it is now. Anyway, that's why like Mitt Romney, Santorum, and Gingrich are all on record as being in favor of mandates before they were opposed to them, because every Republican was in favor of mandates in the 90s. And so if you were alive and in politics in the 90s and you were conservative, you saw these mandates as kind of the essential the great solution that was out there waiting for us, that we could have these healthcare exchanges where private insurers would be incentivized to act efficiently, and people could go and they could choose from among insurers, and so there would be real competition between insurance companies. Prices would be kept as low as possible, and people would have to get healthcare. And that would be great, because the truth is we all need healthcare. You need it from before you're born. So, you need prenatal care, and then you need to go to the doctor periodically. And you can pay for these things in advance, I suppose. You can't pay for prenatal care in advance because you're still inside your mother. But you can pay for these things to an extent, but only to an extent, because there will come a time, at least at which most people won't be able to pay, and then those people will be forced to declare bankruptcy, which again is very inconvenient for our system. So that was why they proposed these mandates. Then in 2008, the next time healthcare became a big deal, because there was again a Democratic president, he basically, it was more Congress than Obama himself. Basically, they scrapped this what was called the public option in favor of a commitment to these healthcare exchanges that were very much like the healthcare exchanges that that had been proposed by conservatives in the 90s. Then all of the Republicans decided they were opposed to mandates, partly for some legitimate reasons, but mostly because they didn't want to lose. They didn't want the other team to score points and to have them not score points, which is basically these days the way that political conversation works in Washington. And not, by the way, just if you're a Republican. That's also true for Democrats. And I'm equally frustrated by both teams, although of late, because we've had a Democratic president, the Republicans have been more concerned with scoring points than the Democrats have. Anyway, that's the background for this this conversation that we're having as a nation right now about how best to pursue universal health care. If we, the two big problems facing, aside from spending 16% of our GDP on healthcare, which is completely unreasonable and unsustainable, the two biggest problems that we face in terms of figuring this out are, what are we going to do about pre-existing conditions, and what are we going to do about what are we going to do about getting more people into the system earlier, the healthcare system earlier, so that it doesn't become front-loaded with people who are very sick. So the pre-existing conditions problem is a problem, because if you get health insurance, like say that your leg falls off, and you're in an ambulance because your leg just fell off, and you don't have insurance, and you call Blue Cross Blue Shield, and you're like, hey, I need insurance in a big way because my leg just fell off. They're not going to want to give you insurance because you haven't been paying into the system the entire time. And they're like, well, you want insurance this month, and you only want to pay $100 for it, but we already know that your leg fell off. And off the post. That was scary. Fortunately, Leroy Williamson has the ball. He's number one in our hearts. Look at him. He never stops. He can run the entire length of the field. He's not going to stop. Can't stop, won't stop. He's going to put it in the middle, and then other John Green can't finish. And then a terrible shot, because I hit the B button too many times in excitement. Oh boy, that was end-to-end action here for the Swoodly Poopers. Um, and finding quote-unquote market solutions to this that don't involve an individual mandate are basically impossible, which is why in the 90s Republicans were proposing mandates. And really, no one has suggested a solution other than just sticking with the current system, which is completely unsustainable and also causes 60% of bankruptcies in the United States. And it's not just unsustainable for poor people, it's also unsustainable for rich people. Also, like I said, the healthcare outcomes that we get aren't actually that great because we aren't necessarily incentivized to get great healthcare outcomes. We're more incentivized to get expensive healthcare outcomes because, you know, in some ways at least, everybody feels as if they've won when we get expensive healthcare outcomes. Oh, come on. Come on, Ball John Green. He's so tough. Never stop. Never stop, Ball John Green. Never. Oh, can I get a foul, please? I was fouled 62 times during that 1 second period. So I'm wondering if there's any way that I could get a free kick for that, for the 62 times that they fouled me. Fitz Hall. He's relentless. He never gives up, and he never quits, and he never loses. And there comes Leroy Williamson out of the back, doing the Leroy Williamson thing. He passes. He passes. He passes. Okay, go to the corner. That was not a good example of how to make a cross. And we're in the 89th minute. It's 0-0, as usual with the Swoodly Poopers. My disappointment in all of this is not that we aren't having a constructive conversation. My disappointment is that we can't have a constructive conversation because all one team wants is for the other team to lose, instead of for both teams. Ball John Green wins the game in the 90th minute. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, yes. Oh, he's big, he's fast, he has a nice mustache. Ball John Green, Ball John Green. He's big, he's fast, he has a nice mustache. Ball John Green, Ball John Green. From his husband, other John Green. Ball John Green and other John Green working together like two men who've loved each other for many years. And that's exactly what they are. We win the game in the 90th minute. I mean, assuming we don't give up a goal here. And that means that we are going to the finals of the FA Cup. We're going back to Wembley. And they're going to smell their pits in shame. Congratulations to the Swindon Town Swoodly Poopers. Huzzah, huzzah, huzzah. On to Wembley. Best wishes.